Reports from Sudan say the death toll from the latest anti-coup protests at the weekend has risen to 8 Sudanese security forces fired tear gas at demonstrators in the capital Khartoum as protesters rallied against the military rule since Thursday, according to the Central Committee of Sudanese Doctors, which is aligned with the protest movement. More than 60 people have so far lost their lives following the October 25, 2021 coup. Now, protesters are angry after military rule which civilian Prime Minister Abdallah Hamdok saw removed. He was then returned amid a failed attempt to rescue a power-sharing agreement in place following the overthrow of Omar al-Bashir between the military and civilian groups. Thursday's demonstration, one of several planned this month, came 4 days after Hamdok again left government, this time resigning from his post. The military has justified the coup as a correction needed to stabilize Sudan's domestic or democratic transition. It says peaceful protests are permitted and that those causing casualties will be held to account. Right, so let's hear the latest now on what is happening in Sudan. We are joined now by Duaa Tariq, Sudan Rights Activist. She joins us from Khartoum. A very good evening to you, Duaa, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. I know tough times for you and other pro-democracy supporters, protesters, activists there. Tell us what the situation is now. Is it still tense? And what is the death toll according to those who've seen it beyond the official line of 8 people being dead?
Good evening and thanks for having me. So the atmosphere right now here on the ground in all Sudan is very intense. People are terrified. The numbers of casualties keep rising up every time we take to the streets. 69 people were killed so far since October 25th until yesterday, and over 1,700 people were injured, whether with tear gas or live ammunition. Also, people, especially young people on the front lines, keeps losing body parts, like people losing their hands and people losing their eyes, and people can't even walk again. So the numbers keeps increasing, the violence in the streets, and also the streets is very militarized. The city is almost occupied with these joint forces of RSF forces, Sudanese armed forces, and police also. And there is also this new phenomenon of they chase protesters after the protest is finished on the streets, like the whole night. They rob people, they attack people, and even there is registered cases of rape and sexual assault after the protest, where the protest takes place. So the atmosphere now is very terrifying and intense, as I said, and people get arrested, and also these forces attacks the hospitals after the protest, and also arrest people that injured, and they've been taken to these to police stations, and also sometimes in places that we don't actually know. And so now they're arresting people who are shot from the protest on the 13th, and until now they trying to frame different youth groups into terrorist cases, and also there is a police officer who was killed on the 12th, and they are now framing some protesters that they arrest from the hospital. They framing them on killing this police officer. So the atmosphere is very intense, and also things are not clear. No one is safe. We've been chased. We've been arrested. It's not safe for you to go to the hospitals anymore. And other than the streets, as I told you, are occupied with different forces.
Do I believe that communication is also very restricted, that there's been a shutdown of ICT, telephone lines, internet? I'd imagine that this too makes it very difficult to get precise information on what is happening where and to whom, and more importantly, for protesters to be able to organize the demonstrations.
So they usually cut the ICT on the day people get time before the protest to organize and stuff. And as we know that the protests are pre-scheduled, so we have the schedule clear up to February, and people know where the place is together and the places that we should march to. And also, I think the organizing is way beyond now, and it's very advanced that people now have this solidarity of going out to the streets, and also they know the routes, the places we're heading and stuff. So we're now beating them on cutting either the bridges between the three cities of Khartoum or the ICT.
There were also reports saying the Forces for Freedom Change groups were planning a press briefing today to give at least some sort of insights on the proposals for an exit strategy for the coup leaders. What do you know of that? Has it happened? Do we know what they expected to say?
The press conference was supposed to be held yesterday, but it's being cancelled. Due to the situation, because there is this young guy who died yesterday, and also the attacks on the hospitals and stuff. But we already know what the FFC have to say, and it's totally rejected from the streets. There is no negotiation or power sharing with these militias. So we already taken a stand against the FFC.
Okay, so we also understand the U.S. Assistant Secretary of State is also headed your way, expected to hold talks with political players. What are the expectations of the visit, if at all?
Countered the UN initiative, the UNITAM's initiative, and that was presented by Volker. It's totally rejected, and the neighborhood committees are now organizing, and they are coming up with the manifesto for revolutionaries and different neighborhood committees, revolutionary bodies and neighborhood committees. So the manifesto includes that no power sharing or no negotiation with these militias. So and also neighborhood committees are open for initiatives that willing to provide assistance or help in solving this crisis, but it doesn't include negotiating with Al-Burhan or this security committee that killing people.
And I ask this because if the United States says it is committed to freedom, peace and justice, do you think there is consensus between yourselves as pro-democracy groups, what the military wants, and those who are calling for a transition government of sorts, a caretaker government, on what really this is? Because I understand that forces that were supportive from Darfur are calling for a caretaker government, but how different will it be from the transition government that's just been collapsed?
Okay, so there is two things. The first thing is we already know what the military wants. They want an exit. They want to walk away with all the crimes and massacres they executed all of through. We know that this sovereign council, especially the military part, is made of al-Bashir Security Committee. So they want a way out without accountability. So that is no way to be happening, especially after these 69 people were killed lately. And the neighborhood committees are leading the streets very well, and everyone is unified against this. So there is no way out, and this protest will continue until we take down this coup and also achieve this government, the new civilian government.
So from where you stand, what would be the one thing that helps bring an end to hostilities? And there certainly are violent hostilities at this point. You've given a very wide and in-depth account of how all of you are affected in trying to find peace in the Sudan. So what should happen next for cessation of hostilities?
We're hoping this doesn't take a long time. Let's say we hope to finish this before the end of the year, according to the scheduled protests and events. And also we're counting on the international community to interfere, the human rights organizations and stuff, because we know we experienced the killing during the sit-in dismantle in 2019, and we know if they want to kill people more, they would have done. But they are looking at the international communities, the UN, the US, and other people who's watching them. So we're depending on the media and also the human rights organizations, international community.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us. Duaa Tariq is a Sudanese rights activist. She's speaking to us from Khartoum there in Sudan. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Do join us. This is The Globe.